Hi everybody and welcome to part one of the Shocking Sharks workshop. So my name is Emer Manning and I'm a volunteer with Sharks for Kids and I help with their education side of things, their education program. So I'm going to bring you this workshop in two parts as I mentioned. Part one is going to be all about the myths surrounding sharks, some of the most common myths that you might have heard. And the second part is going to be facts about sharks that you might not know. But first of all, who am I and why am I qualified to give you this talk? So the first picture there is me dissecting my first ever shark. I went to university to essentially get into the marine sciences, and the second picture there is me being awarded my Masters of Marine Sustainability back in 2015. And since then, on the third picture, I have been awarded my scuba diver's license. And then I got a job in an aquarium here in Ireland in Sea Life in Bray. So they are my hands up there in the corner, and you can see this long pole with a bit of squid on the end of it and two very, very hungry circling sharks there. So that was my job for a while. Then I was awarded a scholarship with Field School in Miami, the beautiful Miami, where I got to go on the RV Garvin. And with Field School and the Field School staff, we caught and worked up, as we call it, which basically means measuring, taking blood samples, biopsies, and tagging these amazing sharks and rays that we caught. And then we pushed them back out into the ocean and made sure that they were really healthy when we did that. So I do also have hands-on experience with many different species of sharks and rays. So we're going to start this workshop really simply. What is a shark? So in your brain, I want you to ask yourself the question, is a shark more closely related to a dolphin or a goldfish? What do you think? Do you think that a shark is a fish or a marine mammal, like a dolphin? The answer is, it's a fish. So sharks are actually fish as well. So any shark that you think of is more closely related to a goldfish than it is to a dolphin, which is weird because it's nowhere near the color, shape, size, or appearance of a goldfish, but sharks are more closely related to goldfish. They are fish. There are some differences, though, between normal fish that we think of, like our goldfish, and sharks. The first thing is that fish have bone, so you can see here that it's very, very tough and spiky bone that you'd find all throughout the fish's body. But sharks have cartilage, and cartilage is really, really flexible, bendy material. In the human body, you actually have cartilage that you can touch in two places. The first is the tip of your nose. See the way you can flatten your nose the whole way down or push it the whole way up and you can bend it and twist it? That's cartilage. And the second place is your ear. So you can flatten your ear all the way down and curve it and push it in and push it out. That is cartilage. So a shark's entire skeleton is made of cartilage, so they're super bendy and flexible, whereas fish are kind of like us. They have bones and they're not as flexy as sharks are. The other difference is sharks actually have skin, just like humans do, whereas fish have scales. So shark skin is nowhere near as soft as human skin. It's really, really rough. It actually feels like sandpaper. And more people actually get hurt by shark skin than they do by shark teeth. Not very many people get bitten by sharks at all, but if you are a fisherman or you've ever been fishing and caught a shark, or maybe you found one washed up on the beach and you decided to rub it, if you rub it kind of like a dog from head to tail, it feels kind of smooth. But if you go backwards and you rub it from tail to head, sometimes it can actually cut your hand a little bit if you do it too hard. That's how sharp their skin is. So, we're going to jump into myth busting time. So I'm going to bring you some of the most common myths around sharks and see if I can bust them for you. So, let's start off with number one. Sharks gotta keep moving to live, right? This is a really, really common myth where people say that sharks have to keep swimming to survive. If they stop swimming, they'll sink and drown, okay? This myth, we're going to get into it in a minute. It's kind of half right. So what I want you to do is I want you to take in a really, really deep breath with me. So When the air goes into our mouth and down our windpipe, where does it go? Pretty easy answer, because the picture is on the screen. It goes into our lungs, okay? But when sharks breathe in, it doesn't go into their lungs because they don't have lungs. They have gills. So the oxygen, and just to make this very clear, sharks actually don't breathe water. In fact, most fish don't breathe water. They breathe oxygen as well, but it's the oxygen that's in the water that they're looking for. So the water will flow into the shark's mouth and will pretty much immediately be pushed out of their gills. And just like on the inside of our lungs, there are these tiny little floaty filaments that are reaching out trying to grab that oxygen, okay? So when it comes to the big guys, the big sharks, like these ones, you'll notice that there's a similarity in every single one of these pictures. This is the great white, the basking shark, the mako shark, the whale shark, the hammerhead shark, and the tiger shark. And there is a similarity in every single photo here, which is that all of their mouths are open. So you'll notice that every single one of them has a slightly open mouth. And this is because these sharks do have to keep swimming to survive. Now, it's not that if they stop swimming, they will immediately start to drown. They can actually stop swimming for a really long amount of time, probably about 10 to 15 minutes before they start to get into major trouble. So that's why when you catch a shark and you pull it up onto the boat, you can still work it up without it dying. But you do want to get them back into the water as soon as possible, of course. And usually in field school, for example, when we catch a shark, by the time it's up on the deck and then back in the water after we finish doing our work, it's less than 1 minute. So normally we go as fast as possible to make sure that that shark is safe. But these guys, they would have an issue if they were trapped in a net, for example, and the net was stopping them being able to swim. They would have trouble then with starting to drown because the water isn't freely pushing into their mouths and out through their gills. However, there are lots of sharks that can be totally lazy and can lie on the ground and not have, or lie on the sand and not have to move or swim. These guys have an extra special organ just kind of in here in their throat that allows them to swallow. It's called a buccal pump or a buccal pump, and these guys are able to sit on the ocean floor and just gulp in air and push it over their lungs, just like you swallowing, but then they're able to push it over their, sorry, not lungs, their gills. They're able to push the water and that oxygen-rich water over their gills, which allows them to stay on the ocean floor. So, myth number 2, sharks can't sleep. So here's my question for you. When we talked about the sharks that have to keep moving to survive, the great whites, the whale shark, the hammerhead, they do have to keep moving. So do they sleep? What do you think? Yes or no? It's an interesting question. The answer is they can kind of sleep. Sort of. So they don't sleep the same way that we as humans sleep. But what they can do, which is the same as dolphins, is they can actually kind of turn off one half of their brain at a time, which is really interesting. So in Sea Life in Bray, the aquarium that I used to work in, if I went down to the shark tank at the end of the aquarium and I looked up, I could see some of the sharks swimming in a circle over and over again, just minding their own business, just doing that circle, laps, not really stopping, fine. But if I came back about 4 hours later, the sharks would be swimming in the circle in the opposite direction. And that's because about 4 hours later, they would flip the side of the brain that they were putting asleep. And they can just rest easy and just keep going in this circle, but their eyes are still open. One half of their brain is still active, so if food came by or if an enemy like a predator came by, they would still be able to make themselves alert enough to either get away from the predator or to catch the food. So it's really, really clever to be able to do this. Some sharks as well, especially the big ones like great whites, do this thing called yo-yo sleeping, where they'll swim around on the top of the surface and then they'll just stop swimming and they'll let themselves start to fall deep, 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 deep in the ocean. All that water is still rushing through their gills, and then when they get down deep enough, they'll just stop going down and start coming back up, swim, 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 until they're level, and then they'll yo-yo back down again. So they just go up and down and up and down, but every time that they let themselves go down, they're essentially able to completely rest. They can just let all their muscles go nice and limp, and they can just rest that way. So myth number 3, sharks are aggressive. This is, of course, a very, very common myth that I think we've all heard. So sharks are not aggressive, and I'm going to prove it to you. These are some really, really unusual ways that humans die. I know that sounds really, really dark, but I just want you to get into your head just how strange some of these ways that we can die are. 6,000 people per year die from tripping and falling. 3,000 people per year die from eating. 2,500 people per year die from being left-handed because they're using the wrong equipment that's meant to be for right-handed people. 900 people per year die just from being in bed. 150 die from coconuts falling on their head. 43 people a year die from taking selfies. 24 people die from being hit with the champagne or wine cork that's popped out. 20 people per year die from cows. And 10 people die per year from having their neck tied too tight. So, out of all of these different and weird, wacky ways that people can die, where do you think in this list sharks fit in? So if you want to, you can pause the video and you can kind of have a think, and you could say, well, I think it might come between coconuts and selfies, or maybe it comes between the left-handedness and the bed. I don't know. You can have a think of it yourself. But if you want to do that, pause the video now, because I'm going to give you the answer. Here we go. The answer is sharks come here, down the bottom, at the very end. Only 8 people on average per year die by shark attack, and that varies from year to year between 5 and 8. 8 is the higher end of the scale. So sharks really, really are not a threat to you, and they are not openly aggressive and trying to catch humans. There is a reason why so many shark attacks are documented and recorded. It's because the media finds it a juicy story, it's interesting, it grabs your attention. But really what happened is, more than likely, the shark actually mistook that surfer or that swimmer or scuba diver for its usual food. Sharks actually don't like the taste of humans, and or the smell of human blood. I'm gonna prove that to you later. But if you have a look, this here is a man on a surfboard, or a woman on a surfboard. And this here is a seal, and this here is a turtle. So you can see that from the shark's perspective under the water, they all kind of look really similar, and sharks could be confused, and that's not taken into account waves rolling by and maybe seaweed in the way, you know. So sharks can easily get confused and think that that surfer is just a slow seal or a slow turtle. So it could go up and take a test bite, and then usually that test bite is only going to be really small. The shark's going to run away because it realized that's not my normal food. But unfortunately, most people die from not being able to get to the hospital fast enough than from the actual shark attack itself. So that's usually the problem. But no, sharks are not aggressive by nature. However, even though sharks are not aggressive by nature, don't do the below. And there's a reason why, and I'm going to point these out. So this is a very, very silly person who has decided to climb on top of a floating dead whale. And here we can see this big, beautiful tiger shark eating the dead whale because it's a free meal, nice and easy. The whales are full of blubber and fat, and that's what sharks want. So if this guy accidentally put his hand down in the wrong place, that tiger shark's not looking at that man and not looking for his hand. It's looking for whale meat, But if that guy put his hand down in the wrong place, he could get himself into serious trouble with that shark. Then we also have somebody here who has obviously caught and fished a shark, but they are not holding that shark correctly. So do you remember when I told you that sharks have cartilage for skeleton, as a skeleton? A lot of sharks can actually spin around 360 degrees and bite at their own tails. So if this shark felt in any way threatened by that fisherman, he could easily turn around and bite that man's hand or arm to try and escape and get away back into the ocean. So just as if you were going on safari, right, and you saw a pride of lions, you wouldn't go up and sit on the back of the lions and ride them. You wouldn't go up and try to pet them or touch them. They are still a predator. They're not aggressive by nature. You can just sit there and watch lions sleep and enjoy them do their thing without them trying to attack you. But same with sharks as lions, you just leave them alone because you don't need to be up in their face and you shouldn't want to be up in their face. So there you go. Sharks aren't actually aggressive, but we do have to give them the respect they deserve. Myth number 4. This is a super famous one. Sharks can smell 1 drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So I'm going to show you a really old clip from the Mythbusters here, and we're going to watch this one together and see what you think. So I'm going to mute my microphone and play this video so that you can hear it.
Jamie, what's this one about?
Well, you tell me, what is the classic shark myth?
Oh, it is that one I've seen on every single documentary ever, that a shark can detect a drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Right. The water will contain the precise concentration of blood. In this test, we're using red food dye. It will be lowered into the tank and ruptured as a shark approaches. Adams devised an ingenious little popping device. 2 syringes, a rubber tube, and a scalpel. Simply press and...
I think that's really pretty.
That really is the trick. That's it.
Here we go. 1 part fish blood to 1,000 parts water.
Just release the trigger just before he gets to it. Okay, they're swimming well towards the bag. All right, let's let them swim up a little higher.
So take your time.
Go.
The condom popper swings into action.
Now, on the second or third pass, if they smell it, they'll
There,
start
he's going
dealing
right
with
into it now.
Yeah. Oh, he turned, he sped up, he turned.
Yeah, pull that needle
Turned
out.
and sped up. Definitely was, I would say 100% that was a response.
The tank is drained and refilled between each test. The sharks were excited by the smell of fish blood. But does human blood whet their appetites?
1, 2, 3.
This time, the amount of blood isn't important. It's a straight-out taste test. Jamie, Adam, and Carrie all give blood.
What's happening? That's it. No, they've been through it. They've been through it. They didn't turn around. There's plenty of blood
The
in there.
lemon sharks don't even flick a fin.
Through it, so they've been swimming through it.
Yeah. Now they are accelerating, but they're. See, they've been through it there. They've been through it.
But watch what happens when Dr. Gruber squeezes a little fish juice in there.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, they like the fish juice, don't they? Oh,
Yeah,
they
that's
want
really
that.
different than what they just did with our blood.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
we
And
put
that,
even more of the blood
I
in
would
there.
say that's pretty good proof.
The cliche shark myth. A drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. What are the results?
Busted. That is, unless, of course, the shark's head happens to be directly under the drop of blood when it falls in the water.
The preference for human blood over fish blood.
Busted.
So, what did you think of that? It was pretty interesting, right? The fact that with the fish blood there was an immediate reaction, but with human blood there wasn't really a reaction at all. So, the truth is, sharks can smell our blood, but they don't care about it. It's not the kind of blood that they want, and there is a distinct difference between the chemical makeup of human blood and fish blood. So there is something in our blood that just doesn't register with sharks the way that it registers when they smell fish blood, because they know that that is their normal prey. So now we're going to take a break from this one, and you can go and watch part 2. That was our Mythbusting episode, including a clip from the Mythbusters back in the Discovery Channel. But now we're going to look at some interesting shark facts that you might not know about over in part 2. So I hope to see you there. Talk to you soon. Bye.